Former tennis icon Margaret has launched a fierce critique of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's government for its stance on Israel amid the ongoing conflict with Hamas in Gaza. During a Senate meeting last month, Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong suggested that Australia would honour an international arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he were to visit the country. This follows indications by the International Criminal Court, ICC, that there are reasonable grounds to believe Netanyahu and former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant may be criminally responsible for alleged war crimes, including claims of using civilians as shields and deliberately targeting non-combatants in Gaza. However, these warrants do not equate to a guilty verdict. Speaking at her Victory Life Church in Perth on Sunday, Margaret criticised the Australian government's treatment of Israel, stating, "The Australian government should be ashamed of how they have treated Israel." Court emphasized that Israel did not instigate the conflict and shared a poignant story she heard from an Israeli man after the October 7th attacks. The man recounted the tragic loss of his wife and 4 children. Court highlighted the ongoing threats faced by Israel, mentioning that more than 30 missiles are launched daily towards the country. She urged Australia to align itself with the United States and adhere to biblical principles by supporting Israel. Court asserted that the Australian government should stand by its historical Judeo-Christian values and long-standing support for Israel. Citing the Bible, she referenced Genesis to underline the promise of blessings for those who support Israel and curses for those who oppose it. "We want Australia to remain a blessed nation," she said. In response, Senator Wong emphasized that the Labor Party prioritizes adherence to international law, contrasting it with the coalition's approach. She reiterated that all parties involved in the conflict must comply with international law, affirming Australia's commitment to its legal obligations over political considerations. The Zionist Federation of Australia condemned the arrest warrants issued by the ICC, arguing that the court failed to recognize Israel's right to defend itself against terrorism in a conflict it did not initiate. President Jeremy Leibler criticized the ICC's decision as flawed, stating that it undermines justice by targeting leaders of a democratic nation. Meanwhile, Netanyahu strongly denied the accusations, labeling the arrest warrant anti-Semitic and based on false accusations. He vowed that no decision from The Hague would deter Israel from defending its citizens against threats from Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. The ongoing conflict, which began with Hamas's attacks on October 7, 2023, has resulted in the deaths of 1,200 Israelis and the abduction of 250 hostages, according to Israeli sources. The death toll in Gaza has reportedly surpassed 44,000, with many more people missing or trapped under debris. In another significant development, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has pledged substantial reforms after endorsing most of the recommendations from the Royal Commission into Defence and Veterans Suicide. The government has accepted 104 of the 122 recommendations from the comprehensive 3,000-page inquiry, which was finalized just 3 months ago. Albanese described the government's response as one of the fastest in history and promised systemic changes to improve the lives of service members and veterans. Among the accepted recommendations is the establishment of a new Defence and Veterans Service Commission to implement reforms in the culture, systems, and processes within the Australian Defence Force, ADF, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. These measures aim to prevent suicide and improve mental health and well-being for service members and veterans. Albanese remarked, "We cannot bring back those we have lost, but we can work to combat this devastating epidemic and strive to end it. We hold the utmost respect for every Australian who serves in our nation's military." The government also supported an independent investigation into sexual violence within the Australian military. Offences such as stalking and the abusive distribution of intimate images will now lead to mandatory discharge from service, with the option to appeal. The response noted that sexual misconduct and unacceptable behaviour have no place in defence, describing the current rates of reported sexual violence within the ADF as entirely unacceptable. One recommendation was partially rejected, which proposed the removal of the service differential for permanent impairment compensation. Albanese explained that this differential allows for higher compensation for service members injured during operational service compared to those injured during training. He stated, "We believe this aspect is important, which is why we have decided to maintain it." The Royal Commission into Defence and Veterans Suicide was the result of over a decade of advocacy by veterans and their families. Its findings and recommendations underscore the urgent need for reforms to address the challenges faced by those who serve the nation. Thank you for watching Aussie Pulse. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on the latest developments in Australia. See you in our next video.